From Studio 3 at Buzz TV, it's The Horse's Mouth with Tom McManus.
All right, welcome into The Horse's Mouth here. Tommy Max, of course, at my bar where everyone has his seat and tells their story. Brought to you by our good friends at the Heritage Capital Group and Client Focused Media. My favorite segment, we're talking football. Coach Campo is here, and so is the OG voice of the Jags, Brian Sexton. Let's welcome them in. Hey, Brian, how are you, my man?
How are you?
Coach Campo.
Tom.
How are you?
I'm good.
All right, I want to talk. I didn't prep you guys before, and I really just, I know you don't. I just thought about it while I was going to the bathroom. But I keep hearing injuries were the cause of last year's fall. I hear it from the coach.
You're talking about the Jaguars?
Yeah, I'm talking about the Jags. Okay. I keep hearing, hey, we were injured. We didn't have this. We didn't have that. Okay, so part of that's true because injuries are part of the game. I don't know if a head coach should ever come out and say that, Coach. I mean, it just seems like, and I know Doug's not this way. He's not trying to make an excuse.
He couched it by saying they shouldn't.
It seems like it's an excuse, man. Come on, everyone has injuries. And if your starter gets hurt, well, why isn't your backup good enough to play? You got plenty of cap. Like, where's the – I don't know. I was a backup, you know, and then when the starter went down, I felt like I could start all day long. It was like not a drop-off.
You asked, Coach. Can I jump in real quick ahead?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to couch it real quick. It was the comment was made, to put it in context.
It wasn't just recently, Ryan. He's been doing it all offseason.
Well, but in the latest comment was made in the context of the offensive line and bringing in Mitch Morse and creating stability because Cam missed 8 games last year. They had 4 starting left guards. In the latest case, he was really talking about how the offensive line didn't perform up to its standard, and injuries were a part of it. I want to lay the context.
Okay,
down.
well, I say, okay, injuries are part of it, but you also got your ass kicked up front. So I don't care who was in there, starter, non-starter, you're getting kicked up front. You know, to say that it was all injuries.
Well, he didn't say it was all injuries. He said injuries.
He said it all throughout the offseason. I've been listening to
him. But what they were talking about, though, was why the offensive line played so poor, and it was just a component of it. Was on the left side, and you're one to talk about this, Coach. When you have when you're playing different combinations all season long, you didn't have the group that you thought you'd have until week 17. And he was talking about it like that. I get it that you want to have backups, but you know you've had Tyler Shatley as a backup here for years. Really strong guy, really good player.
He can play.
He can play. Yeah. But when he got in this year, he didn't play all that well.
He plays better at center than guard. He's not much of a guard.
100%. I don't believe in making injuries an excuse, but when you start looking at the reasons for why the Jaguars struggled this year, it was up front on the offensive line.
And defensive line.
Well, and I'm just talking about offense at this point, but yeah,
they got their butts kicked up front. I mean, that's what happened, in my opinion. Sure, injuries happen, but injuries happen all over the place.
Here's the whole thing, and I agree with you from the standpoint that you got to be really careful about making excuses. Yeah. There's no question about that. I think his whole thinking as a coach, and I kind of agree with him on this, that when he looked at the offense, there was enough things there that he feels he can fix. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Yeah.
And in order to make that clear to everybody, he kind of had to put those things out there. Okay? Yeah. Here's what I can do to fix this. We need to have this. We need to, have the line 100%. We need to have, we lost the middle. Clippings. We lost the middle of the football field when we lost Kirk. Those kind of things. Yeah. He put it out there, but he showed really what his thoughts were when he got rid of the defensive staff, because that part of it was based on I can fix the offense, but there was enough in the background on defense from the coaching staff as far as their way of doing things and their whole demeanor and whether or not they were working hard enough, I need to make that change. So to me, there is something to the injuries. There's no question about it. But I think you really have to be careful with how you present it.
You do. But again, it sounds like I'm coming to his defense. He's really
good.
You
are, but that's okay. There's nothing wrong with
I do think there needs to be some context. If you listen to Doug Peterson talk at his news conferences, if you know what to listen for, you hear what he's really saying. He does the head coach speak, and he talks in between. So,
Brian, it's not rocket science. Come on, it's football.
Okay.
He does have to protect his team. I get that.
There's a little bit of that.
I think it's how you gotta deliver it different.
Injuries might have been, you might perceive it as being an excuse, or it might have been pointing the finger of blame, too, right? And looking at that offensive line and dialing it in. Because you talk about all the pieces that you have, and he thinks that he can fix it. He was talking about the offensive line. He wasn't talking about the quarterback or the receivers or the running backs or the tight ends. He was dialed in on the offensive line.
The left guard and the left tackle. Because the center, right guard, and right tackle were there all year.
So
they just weren't very good, except Anton.
Kind of pointing his finger as much as he's saying injuries were a part of it.
Yeah. Well, then they better have better backups.
Yeah.
Well, that comes to coaching too, right? And he did say that they've got to coach those guys better.
They got to get them up and running. Well, I do think adding Mitch Morse and adding Eric Armstead should shore up the toughness on the line because they need an attitude adjustment.
The main part of it is the attitude, what you just said. I think really what they did with free agency all the way along is what they did 2 years ago. They filled enough people in there to where they don't have to take a huge need with that 17th pick of the draft. That's why you take those people. And he's got the attitude part of it. A lot of captains, guys that have been there before, they know what it takes down the stretch. And I don't think they had enough competitive leadership in the locker room. When people talk about culture, to me, it's all about competitive leadership.
You're right.
He said after they lost 34-3 to the Niners last year, this team needs to know that they haven't done anything yet. So the guys that they went and brought in are guys who've done things, right? Mitch Morse and Eric Armstead in particular, but Darnell Savage was a guy who played in a lot of playoff games and was a Pro Bowl caliber player. The guys they brought in, Ronald Darby won a Super Bowl with him. They're changing that. Let's be honest. Last year, the league gave them premier games. Kansas City, Buffalo, San Francisco, Cincinnati, and Baltimore. And in primetime settings, except for Kansas City. They didn't come through in those big games. And in a couple cases, right, Kansas City was the week of the home opener, and the players said afterwards, we didn't have a good week of practice. What?
How's that possible?
I agree. You had the bye week before San Francisco, right? And you come out and you play like that. I get it. I think San Francisco was a better team. But still, 34-3? Are you kidding me?
Well, the psyche was a question, like, even from the beginning, because of that. How do you have a bad practice when the champ's coming to town? You just beat Indy. And then how do you let Houston come in here and smoke you in front of your hometown crowd?
We had two guys.
That was an injury.
We had two guys.
No, that was a bad performance.
We had two guys in Dallas. And I go back to Dallas because you're talking about championship football, right? We had two guys in Dallas. Michael Irvin would never let you lose 5 or 6 games in a row. No way. He was ready to call out everybody in the locker room. Okay? But he did it on the field. Every single route he ran was like it was the last play of the Super Bowl to win the game. The other guy was Troy Aikman. You look at him as being quiet and this and that. There's a video out there. If you want to see,
I love it.
And he called me out. He called everybody out. And that, his entire offensive line, nobody's saying anything. He's on the offensive coordinator. He's on. He said, including the head coach. So I'm not afraid to step out there and say, hey, that was on me. But those kind of guys is what they're trying to bring in.
You need that in the locker room.
Because you didn't have anybody who could do that.
It didn't seem like it.
No. Now you've got Eric Armstead who can say, hey, this is what it takes to get to the Super Bowl. And you've got Mitch Morse who can say, this is what it takes to get to the AFC Championship game and have a shot at the chance.
All right, as we got to wrap it up, but let's fast forward to the draft real quick, okay? So hypothetical scenario. Top-rated O-lineman, top-rated corner, top-rated wide receiver available at number 17 for the Jags, and they stick with the pick. What position are they picking, do you think?
Top-rated?
Everyone's top rated. Whoever's left, the top rated OT left, top rated wide receiver left, top rated corner left.
I think they'll take corner. I would take offensive tackle because Cam Robinson and Walker Little's contracts both expire this year, and you have Anton Harrison, and you need to get young and cheap because you got to pay the quarterback next year, right? You still got to get a deal done with Josh Allen, but I think corner is a more pressing need. You've got Ronald Darby, but he's an older guy. He's on the other side of 30. So to get a shot at the number one corner, I don't know that they would pass that up.
Well, it wouldn't be number one. Whoever's remaining is what I'm saying. So maybe the top two guys are there, and then
that's the sweet spot for corner and offensive tackle, right? The elite guys, the Joe Alts of the world, and the kid from Penn State, they'll be gone. But really good players will be there. I
Coach,
think
what
they
would
go
you do?
corner.
I'm taking the big guy.
Yeah, me too.
I'm a big guy.
I'm ready to move on, too. I'm ready for Anton to go left tackle.
Big
Let's go.
and fast.
Yeah.
Those two things are what you're looking for.
That's right.
Big number one, fast number two.
Yeah.
And that's how
right.
I look at it.
Don't be surprised if they don't draft an offensive tackle and then let Cam go find greener pastures.
Agreed.
Recoup the cap room that he represents, which is almost $17 million.
Yeah.
And then have a young guy. They plugged Anton Harrison in last year.
Absolutely.
He played great. Move Anton to left, which is where he belongs, and then plug this big kid in, right? There's a couple of big right tackles that fit.
Yeah.
I would do that in a heartbeat.
Me too. Great stuff, fellas.
Yes,
Thanks,
sir.
Brian. Good to see you.
All right.
Coach,
Okay,
always a
Tom.
pleasure, my friend. Each and every week we talk ball right here on the Horse's Mouth with Coach Campo and the OG voice of the Jags, our good friend, Brian Sexton. Make sure you check out this conversation and many others at the dailynewsnetwork.com website. Till next time, y'all stay safe out there and be cool. We'll see you right here on the Horse's Mouth. Cheers.
The team at Heritage Capital Group is special because it's a collection of people across the spectrum.
We have people who have been in the shoes of owners that are looking to buy and sell, and professionals that have executed transactions helping buy and sell companies for decades.
I think when you talk to us, see what our experience is, see what our skills are, see the reach that we have, you'll be very happy with the recommendation.